All right, let's just jump right in. The word sentinel. It brings up these really powerful images, right? Guardians, watchtowers, something or someone standing guard. But today, that ancient idea has been completely reborn in some of the most advanced technology you can imagine, both on and way, way off our planet.
So, seriously, when I say that word sentinel, what's the first thing that pops into your head? A soldier pacing on a castle wall? Maybe a lone watchman in a tower? For centuries, yeah, that's exactly what it meant. But today, we're going to look at three technologies that are so different from each other, yet they've all adopted that name. And in doing so, they're basically redefining what it even means to watch over our world.
I mean, look at this. On one side, you have the classic meaning, the soldier, the protector, the human guardian. And on the other side, well, that's where things get interesting. We're talking about a satellite mapping the entire globe, a little robot rover patrolling the ground, and, get this, a purely digital algorithm that navigates economic markets. Three sentinels, three worlds that couldn't be more different. So that's what we're going to unpack in this explainer. We're going to check out each one of these sentinels. We'll start with that global eye in the sky, then we'll zoom all the way down to a ground-level security guard, and finally, we'll dive into a mind that's literally made of code. And I think by the end, you'll see this fascinating pattern emerge in how our watchers are evolving. Okay, first up, we're going big. And I mean planet-sized big. We are talking about the Copernicus Sentinel-1 mission. It's this incredible state-of-the-art radar satellite constellation that is constantly watching over the Earth.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're dealing with here, look at that number, 693 kilometers. That's how high up Sentinel-1 is, just whipping around our planet. This is not some little drone we're talking about. This is a massive piece of global infrastructure, floating in space.
So what is it actually looking at from way up there? Well, a lot of really crucial stuff. It's basically monitoring the vital signs of our planet. Everything from the shrinking sea ice in the Arctic to dangerous oil spills out in the ocean. And this data, it isn't just for scientists in a lab. No way. It shapes international policy, it helps guide billion-dollar shipping routes, and it's absolutely critical for first responders trying to provide aid during disasters like floods. It's our planet's early warning system. Now, here's the really cool part, how it actually works. This satellite uses a special kind of radar, which means it can see right through clouds, day or night. And as you can see here, it has these different modes. It's all about a trade-off, right? Between how much area you can see, that's the swath, and how much detail you can pick out, that's the resolution. So you can go for this super wide 400-kilometer view to monitor huge patches of sea ice, or you can zoom way in for a much more detailed 5 by 5 meter picture. It's like this incredibly versatile eye in the sky, and it can adapt its vision to whatever the task is. All right, so let's shift gears completely for our next Sentinel. We're going to come crashing down from 693 kilometers up in orbit to, well, literally centimeters off the ground with something called the Neo-Sentinel rover. So this diagram basically shows you the rover's nervous system. Right at the heart of it is a Raspberry Pi 4. That's the brain. It's constantly taking in information from all its senses. You've got an ultrasonic sensor so it doesn't bump into things, a fire sensor, a sound sensor, even a metal detector. The brain processes all of that information and then decides what to do, whether that's moving its wheels, sounding an alarm, or sending out an alert. And this is where it gets really, really smart. See, the rover doesn't just sense its environment, it actually sees it. Using its camera and some clever onboard processing, it can do face recognition, to identify who's allowed to be there. And even more amazing, it can use object detection to spot potential threats, like a weapon. So we've gone from monitoring the entire planet to providing personal intelligence security right here on the ground. Okay, for our third and final Sentinel, we're going to leave the physical world behind entirely. This one has no body, no motors, no hardware, not in the way we usually think of it. We're making a leap from a rover that's autonomous in physical space to an agent that's designed to be autonomous in the digital economy. It exists only as code. I want you to meet the Autonomous Economic Agent, or AEA. And this is a really profound shift. We're talking about a piece of software that can have its own digital wallet, pay for its own server costs, and make economic choices to keep itself running, all without a person sitting there telling it what to do. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. This thing isn't just a simple bot running a script over and over. Nope. It's designed to interact with really complex systems, to actually negotiate for the best price on computer resources, and to find new ways to create value. It's an active, strategic player in the game. But, giving this much autonomy to a piece of code create some brand new, kind of scary risks. Let me tell you about this one scenario the developers called decimal drift. So the agent spots what looks like a great deal, a real money-making opportunity, and it gets ready to make a trade.
But then the AI model hallucinates. It gets a decimal point wrong. It thinks it's buying a huge amount of something valuable, but it's actually getting practically nothing. It signs the transaction and poof, its entire daily budget, $1,000, is gone. Just like that, wiped out in a split second by a clever bot that saw the AI's mistake. One tiny error with massive financial consequences. So how on earth do you stop that from happening? Well, with this absolutely brilliant security rule. Trust the state, not the weights. What that means is you don't blindly trust the AI's internal thinking, its weights. Instead, before you sign any transaction, you run a quick simulation and check the actual result, the state change. If the bank balance in the simulation doesn't match what the AI predicted, you slam on the brakes and abort the whole thing. It is quite literally a digital seatbelt. All of this leads to a really cool new way of thinking about these things, a sovereignty score. This agent gets a pretty impressive 87 out of 100. As you can see, it's highly autonomous, it has its own identity, it can protect itself from being exploited on the blockchain, that's the MPC/MEV protection, and it can even find and pay for its own computing power from decentralized networks. So what's its main weakness? Well, that dependency risk. It still relies on those external networks to get things done. It's almost, but not quite, a completely independent digital life form. So there you have it. We've seen 3 Sentinels. One watching from orbit, one patrolling the ground, and one living in the digital world. Let's pull it all together now and see what this wild evolution is really telling us. This table just lays it all out so perfectly. Look at this journey. We went from the global domain of a satellite controlled by a state agency just gathering planetary data, down to the local domain of a rover that an individual can build, providing physical security, and then into the purely economic domain of an agent controlled by its own sovereign code, creating value through tiny transactions. The scale gets smaller and smaller, but the autonomy, the complexity, it just skyrockets. And that leaves us with one last massive question. Think about it. The first Sentinel is a tool we command. The second is a more complex tool that follows rules we program. But that third one, that's an agent we have to negotiate with, that we have to build guardrails for. So as these watchers, these Sentinels get more and more autonomous, the biggest challenge isn't going to be just building them. It's going to be making sure that their goals are actually aligned with our own. What happens when the Sentinel doesn't need a sentry anymore?